this is Catherine O'Connell and welcome to Lawyer on Air. If you are looking for inspirational stories about women in law, then this is the podcast for you. Join me and my lawyer ladies as we enjoy a glass of wine after a hard day at work and talk about the world of women in law. I hope you will enjoy getting to know these amazing women who I am so proud to share a profession with. I'm glad you're here and I hope you enjoy the show. Hi everyone and welcome to this bonus episode of Lawyer on Air. I'm Catherine O'Connell. Today I am joined by the one and only Jayne Nakata. As you know, she's my marvelous producer, manager, and strategist for this award-winning Lawyer on Air podcast. And we thought it would be really fun today to do a kind of Bonenkai, an end-of-year party celebrating all of what we've achieved this year and also celebrating the wonderful guests we've had, especially through this last season, season 2. And so we wanted to prepare a wonderful podcast episode for people to listen to get some inspiration for this next 2022, which we think, Jayne and I both think, is going to be an amazing year. What do you think, Jayne? Welcome to the show and for joining me.
Hi, everyone. Thank you, Catherine. I'm so excited to be back on Lawyer on Air. I have been working in the background all season so far, and I have loved hearing all of the wisdom that our wonderful legal eagles have. And this episode is just going to be pure gold from start to finish. So get your pens and paper ready, get your journals out, and get ready to write down all of the great stuff that these women who are leading, they're leading in the legal profession in Japan have for us. And even if you're not a lawyer like myself, you're going to get loads out of this episode. It has been a bonkers year for us, hasn't it, Catherine?
Bonkers would explain it. Yeah, bonkers is definitely what it's been.
I love that word.
Bonkers, great. Great. I love it.
Yeah, so tell us a little bit about what it's been like for you starting this podcast back in just March. It hasn't even been a year. And now we're in season 2, episode 8-ish, aren't we? Yeah, we're about episode 8. And so, what has it been like for you going from beginner, I've never podcasted before, to where we are now?
Yeah, beginner. I really feel I'm no longer a beginner. I do feel I was definitely a beginner back in March. And, as it took me a long time to actually get from that inspiration in 2018 with you when I talked on your podcast to finally launching in March. And you really helped me on that one. I think when we did it in the first episode with Angela Krantz, it was fun. I was a bit nervous. I knew her very, very well. So it was great to start with a guest who I knew well and I could be comfortable with. So I did okay, I think. I'd give myself maybe a rating of 6 out of 10. Maybe a 7 or a 7.5. But I think as time went by, I got more into my groove and I was able to maybe take things a bit easier and be a bit more comfortable. But at the very beginning, I think I was really finding it hard in some ways, but also it was important for me to think, just execute, just get it done. You can work on it as you go through. And that's also what you helped me with, Jayne. You sort of said, go for it and work it out as you go and it'll come to you. You don't have to have it all perfect first. So that's what I really loved about it.
So now that we're where we are, how do you feel now?
Well, I feel I'm more confident. I feel I'm more in my zone and I've got a flow. I still do make some mistakes. And thanks to your wisdom and your expertise and your skills, we sort of, cut out some of those things. But basically, I think it's gone so well and the feedback's been phenomenal. And that's just kept me going like, gasoline in a car. It just keeps me rocking along. And I really do feel that now I'm unlocking the wisdom of women that we're not able to be exposed before.
Exactly.
So I'm feeling, I'm really, not only that I unlocked their wisdom, but I also feel I'm unlocking myself as I go along this path. And that vulnerability and that kind of thing is also really helping me. And I didn't realize that would happen running a podcast and being the host. I thought it was all about the guest, which it is. but it's also unveiled some unusual or new or interesting things for myself.
There you go. You just never know what you might learn when you start podcasting. And a lot of guests comment, wow, I didn't realize I'd done all those things, or I've never taken the time to reflect on my career, and you've given me that chance. And that was really amazing. So yeah, if you're listening, get yourself on a podcast. Yeah. It's a kind of therapy, right? It's good.
It is a kind of therapy. It really is. And I think when I've finished a recording and I see the guests sit there when we put the camera back on and they are talking about, wow, I've never thought about that since it happened. It might be graduating from a university and when they got their law papers, or when they moved overseas and unpacked their suitcase in the new destination, things like that. They just didn't think about it. They've moved on with their lives. So I think you've picked up a great point there, that people are reflecting, and to give yourself a time to reflect is a really good thing.
Yes.
So that's been a real joy. Yeah.
So what are some of the wins for Lawyer on Air? Tell us about some of the details.
Well, as I just said, unlocking the pathway for others, but I've really unlocked it for myself. And it's been one massive win for me personally. The second would be, of course, the win, that is the physical win of winning an award this year for the podcast. Yeah. Being the bronze winner of the, New Zealand Kiwi podcast abroad. I won bronze in that category, and you won silver, which was super, super, super awesome. But I mean, I don't think we need awards as such to give us that recognition or endorsement. We don't need external approval, perhaps, but it is a stamp of approval to a certain extent. And maybe it helps my confidence. It helps yours. We know we're on the right path. I think it also helps others who might be thinking about Lawyer on Air or curious about it. And maybe they need something to show their firm or their company to get some kind of internal approval to appear on the podcast. I think this award is going to help with that. They can take it off to their boss or to whoever makes the decisions and show them that it's an award-winning podcast, an award-winning podcaster, and an award-winning team in you being a self-made podcaster who's won an award as well. So I think that's another win. And the other thing, Jane, I would have to say is, wow, this community that's been built is it's really blown me away. The ripples out from the posts that we do on social media, for example. And I think it sort of burst into flames with the episode with Aramide went out. And she has an amazing community, and she opened up pathways to Lisa Lang and Flo Nichols and Laura Frederick and Sarah Williams and all that group, who are phenomenal ladies who are lawyers and doing all sorts of amazing things. So her sort of tribe got in on the podcast and helped us out. Then it went into Bill Ash and John Lindsay, and also the guys in Tokyo, Josh and Tom, and it went to the males in the community as well. So that was something I never, ever expected. The other thing was when Yuka Hongo got to talk about Steve Fretson, that she was listening to his podcast, had some business marketing with him. I said to her, I know him through walking around the neighborhood on my walks, listening to Steve's podcast. And so I reached out to Steve, and we had a podcast together on his podcast, Be That Lawyer. So this kind of expansion beyond what I could have imagined from the podcast, I got to meet the hero, who is Steve Fretson, as well as all these other ladies and people. So those are some wins that have been absolutely significant for me.
Yes, amazing, that word expansion. Yeah, you've created expansion for your guests and vice versa. And that's just amazing. I love it. Yes, so we have a lovely episode for you prepared. And today we are going to give you some of the tips from our guests so far in season 2. But first, I'm going to ask you, Catherine, let's hear from you. What are your tips for 2022 for lawyers?
Well, actually, I'm thinking about themes as well, but expansion sounds like a great thing for me, but also focusing on joyful activities and about well-being. The other day, I had this dream about diamond being sort of shining and also having this solid black core from where, to create joy and happiness. And so I want to just try and decide on priorities for next year. But if I think about my 3 tips, I think the first one would be for people to focus on their top 2 sort of big projects they want to work on. One would be personal and one professional. And work on those for just joy and inspiration. Find a sort of nice little new niche area. Maybe it's legal tech. Maybe it is, as you said before, launch a podcast, write a blog, or take up some sport or interest. Carve out time to devote yourself to this kind of happiness. And I think really sort of look around you for this sort of inspiration. And I hope this episode will bring that. Because there's all of our wonderful season 2 guests are giving their inspiration. So be vocal, I think, about what you want to do things that are working differently towards your goals, and look to people who can be your sounding board, because I think that's really helpful as you move along in your incremental steps and goals. And second tip would be create white space in your calendar. I started thinking a lot about this after Angela Krantz's episode and how she blocks out time in her calendar. And so I think this is really wonderful to allow for inspiration and innovation to pop up in your schedule and develop, new interests, and, go out on a trip somewhere randomly on a Friday afternoon when you weren't thinking about it, but your space is in the calendar. Those kinds of things. I mean, I use a lot, and I mean a lot of highlighter markers and rainbow colors in my diary and on my Google Calendar. But I want to see more white space in 2022. I really do. I think I haven't done that quite well enough, but I want it white, white, and white. So the third thing I think as a tip would be think of a theme for the year. This really and truly has been a North Star for me in the last years to attain my dreams. If I take it back to 2019, I had audacious as my word of the year, and I met Jacinda Ardern, the Prime Minister of New Zealand, that year. And in 2020, it was next level. And of course, we had a pandemic, but it was my guide through the pandemic to, not be sitting in some seat and doing nothing, but to come out of the wallpaper and move forward into the limelight. And, in 2020, I won not 1 or 2, but 3 awards. And they were just amazing. They were business awards. And that theme of next level really guided me. And this year, it's been intentional as my guiding light. So everything I've done has been around that. Even this, loss of 17 kilograms to the universe, sayonara, launching the podcast, winning the award, doing that with you, and intentionally finding joy and happiness. So my dream would be for people to try and think about a theme for the year, because I really feel it's going to be huge in 2022 if you've got a guiding theme or word to guide you. How about you, Jayne? What tips do you have then for 2022?
Yeah, I also have some tips. I also have a theme every year. I love to have my own theme. I have had for this year the word radiant.
Oh, yes, you've been radiant. That's
so
for
I've
sure.
been working on being radiant in different ways, both internally, externally, taking myself for beauty treatments, getting my nails done because that gives me joy, which makes me more radiant, as well as doing things like self-hypnosis and things to be more radiant on the inside, which shows on the outside. So that's been my word this year. I am still looking for my word for next year. I have not been inspired yet.
Me too.
But I will be making time to think about that. And I'm really looking forward to what that might be. It might be something like next level or something audacious.
Next level's great. Audacious, that's also great.
Yeah.
But good. Okay, I look forward to seeing that unfold.
So my tips for 2022. So first one, give yourself time to reflect and see that this year and even so far in your life has not been wasted, and see exactly what you did achieve. And I mentioned it just a little bit earlier with our guests on the show, having that chance to reflect over their entire careers, talking with you, Catherine. But it could be as simple as getting out your iPhone and looking through the photos that you took this year and just seeing, oh, I went there. Oh, I ate that. Oh, I met that person. Oh, look at all the stuff I actually did. So we often forget. We can't remember all of the things we've done, and we would easily be led to believe that we've done not very much this year because we might have been locked down. Let's face it, we haven't been able to live the life we've always been living. But if you go into your phone, I'm sure you will find some of the joyful moments captured to remind you of all the things that you have done this year. And that is a really good place to start from to plan the rest of your year. So if you go into planning your year from, oh, I did nothing, or 2021 was really rough, what kind of great stuff do you think you're going to be able to plan with that kind of mindset? So I really encourage you to do that.
I love that. I love that. That is such a good thing. What a great tip.
So the next one, number 2, set a goal so audacious or out of this world that you cannot possibly see how it's going to happen. It's just too ridiculous for you to see how it's going to happen, but that's not your business. It is not your business how this audacious, brilliant, wonderful thing comes into being. And then just put it aside and trust that somehow, some way, that or something even better is coming to you. What on earth would be your audacious, so audacious that you maybe so audacious you don't even let yourself believe that it's possible because you automatically discount that's so crazy.
Right. My executive coach, Sarah Furia, would say the highest dream.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, it's like a high dream.
The highest dream, the high dream, the highest of highest dreams, what you would like to dream in 2022. I love that. Oh, Jayne, that's so wonderful. Tell us tip 3.
So I'd like to encourage listeners to find a way to get their voice and their story out into the world. So something I've really noticed this year is the lack of women speaking about themselves out there. And sometimes it takes, like coming on a show like Lawyer on Air, for them to go through the process of seeing just how much they've achieved and reflecting on their life. And it gives them such a boost to go out and do even more great things. So I would love to see more women finding a way to speak more about themselves, to have a voice, whether that's being on a podcast, doing a talk, speaking up somewhere where they don't normally speak, creating a session with your friends to talk and share stories. Because this is what humans have always done. We've always shared stories, and it has always been an art form that perhaps has been a little bit lost. So I'd love to see more of that from our listeners this year. And if you do, please let us know. We'd love to hear from you, I think, right? We'd love to hear about your experiences with this.
Wow, super. I love that. And yes, I'm all for everyone getting their voice out there even more. And if you've not done it before, this could be a really good first step to do something, make it your mission in 2022.
All righty. So let's get to our amazing guests that we have teed up to give you all of these tips. So like I said, make sure you got your pen and paper handy. You're going to need it, especially for our first guest. One of our hit episodes for the second season has been Roya and Doi. She has so many great nuggets in her whole episode. If you haven't listened, go listen to that straight after this. But here she is with her top tips for 2022. Here we go.
So Royanne Doi, tell me what you are thinking about for 2022 and what 3 tips you would like to share to inspire lawyers as they plan out their career and personal development activities for 2022.
2 or 3 tips. I would say if you haven't invested in an executive coach every 10 years of your career, you really should. It's great when your company will pay for it on their own. And certainly if they offer, you should take it. But if you don't work for a company that will pay for one, I highly recommend that you get one. You can always get there on your own. But a couple of thousand, $1,000 or a couple of $1,000 every 10 years, I feel is a good, worthwhile investment in order to take your game up to the next level. One of the books that I recommended was What Got You Here Won't Get You There. And in that book, the idea is all of the activities and skills and behaviors that made you successful as a junior person can actually be sabotaging you as you climb up the corporate ladder and become a more senior person. I think having an executive coach is really helpful. I certainly have had one every 10 years. I even bartered some legal services in exchange for some executive coaching. Athletes have no problems with hiring a pitching, putting, swinging coach to help them improve their performance, and lawyers should be no different. So my first big tip is to definitely get an executive coach. I think my second tip would be similar to what we had discussed, which is basically keep your awareness open to possible nudges, things that you may not normally think about doing, but that there are these cosmic coincidences that are placing opportunities in front of you. So when you are too focused on your 10-year plan, or you have an idea where you want to be, and you don't keep a more diffused focus, open mind to other possibilities, you might miss some great avenues, other paths not taken. And I think you should keep an open eye for those possibilities. So not to be too closed off or locked down to some choices. And then I think the last thing would be self-care is self-love. It's really important for you as you get older to be working, not just working hard, but working smart and taking good care of yourself. So I have a whole team Royanne, who's in charge of making sure that I'm moving forward. And that's my acupuncturist and my husband and my BFF, best friends forever. And I have coaches and advisors, sponsors, et cetera. So being able to gather a group of people around you who actually care for you and want the best from you and for you, and basically curating them, making sure that you have a team that's taking care of you and taking care of yourself, whether that's meditation twice a day, having some kind of spiritual practice, and eating, sleeping, all these sort of basic things in life that you can't, as you get older, you realize you're just not going to be able to cram. Everything I want in my life at this point, at 59 years old, is things that I can only get by taking effort, a little bit of effort every day. I have to exercise 30 minutes a day. I can't cram 5 hours on a Saturday and expect the same results. So gentle, easy, baby steps, self-care. Those would be my 3 tips.
Oh, yes, Royanne. She so hit the spot there. I loved that she's such a planner, but she has such an awareness of those nudges and what she calls the cosmic coincidences. Oh, my goodness. That really hit home to me when she told me these things. And I also recall and have in the back of my mind Steven Spielberg, of all people, talking about how it's the quiet whispers that we need to listen to. And this has really stuck with me since I heard him say this in an interview. And I really loved what he said. And it makes me literally have goosebumps and tingle. And so I just wanted to say his words here as a follow-up to what the gorgeous Royanne just said. And Steven Spielberg said, you have a dream, and the dream isn't something that you dream and then it happens. That dream was something you never knew was going to come into your life. Dreams are always coming from behind you, not right between your eyes. It sneaks up on you. But when you have a dream, it doesn't often come to you screaming at your face. This is who you are. This is what you must be for the rest of your life. Sometimes a dream almost whispers. And I've always said to my kids, the hardest thing to listen to is your instincts. Your human personal intuition always whispers. It very rarely shouts, and it's very hard to hear. So you have to, every day of your lives, be ready to hear what whispers in your ear. And if you can listen to the whisper, and if it tickles your heart and is something you think you want to do for the rest of your life, then that is going to be what you do for the rest of your life, and it will benefit everyone from what you do.
Very, very good. I love that, listening to that whisper. And we often don't give ourselves a chance to hear because of all the noise in this world that we have. So yeah, making those chances to hear those whispers more. maybe in 2022 is also a great idea. What do you do to hear those whispers, Catherine? Do you do anything to give yourself that quiet? I think we need quiet, right? To hear.
We need quiet time. Yeah, we do need quiet time, but also it's not only in the quiet time that these whispers happen. They happen in the middle of a conversation. As you've been talking, I've been listening to what the whispers are out of what we've been speaking about today. So for me, it's actually actively listening into conversations and what I might possibly have just heard a little wisp of. And then I need to sort of capture a little bit more, ask another question. So that's what I'm doing, is as well as creating that white space and moments to reflect, it's also listening into what's busy going on all the time, but picking up something that might have just been a little bit of a bleep on the radar.
I often get these downloads that just come to me like, this is what this podcast should be called, or this is what this episode should be called. And I don't know where it comes from. It's very weird. But if I just give myself the quiet, they come to me from seemingly nowhere.
That is amazing.
Yeah. So
yeah,
that's very magical. I also like to just walk with my dog without earphones, which seems radical. But where I live here in Fukushima, I go and I walk my dog 3 times a day around the neighborhood, and I will look at the nature. I'll be out looking at the nature or looking at the houses or whatever, but no earphones in, and just really focusing on being present. And I that kind of helps to clear your mind a little bit and let those whispers come
it
to
does.
You.
You're so right. We're looking at our phones all the time. And when I do my soul strolls, I'm also, in fact, doing that, trying to not listen, although I'd listen to, as I just said, some people I listen to on podcasts. But I do try not to look at the screen and just sort of walk and look at what's going on around me, the dogs, the dog group that I see each morning and things like that, to get some inspiration. So yeah, thanks for calling that out. That's where our whispers are coming from. We can't be occupied doing too many other things.
Yeah.
We need to leave some space.
Yeah, give yourself a chance to hear those whispers. I keep getting that George Michael song, Careless Whisper, keeps popping into my, that's something completely different.
Pop that on your end of year Spotify list. Go for it.
My kids played that for me the other day. They thought it was great. They were like, listen to this great song, Mummy. And I was like,
this great new song, Mummy.
And they're like, do you know it? And I'm like, yes.
Okay, I might play that after we've recorded this, Jane,
yeah,
as a signifier for today.
So, Catherine, who do we have next?
So thank you, Jane, for your tips. And I hope everyone's enjoyed listening to yours and to mine. And so we've teed up all of the guests in season 2 to give their top 3 tips. This is going to be absolutely awesome. So we're going to start with Mitsuru, Claire, Chino to take it away, and the other guests will follow. Please enjoy. So Claire, what are you thinking about for 2022, and what 3 tips would you like to share to inspire lawyers as they plan their career and personal development activities for 2022?
So 2022 is going to be an interesting year. I think we still need to be nimble and flexible, because I just don't think that we are back to normal yet. So stay flexible and nimble. That's number 1. Number 2, because of COVID, I think there are a lot of good things that came about as well. So, for example, a lot of virtual seminars, all these conferences you can attend. So continue to take advantage of them, because I don't know how available they're going to be in 2023. So get to know as many people as you can, through, even though virtually, is number 2. And then number 3, while I said to be nimble and flexible, at the same time, I really do believe that the pendulum, when it swings so far one way, it actually tends to come back, right? So do not be too flexible. For example, I do believe that the hybrid work style will become a norm, but I don't know, for example, how much the 100% working from home is going to be set as the standard. So don't necessarily think that what you're seeing right now, even though good things, would stay. So just be on the cautious side.
Brilliant. Thank you so much.
So, for example, I would go out and buy, get rid of your city apartment completely and go out in the middle of nowhere where you could probably work from home very well, but not much access to the city. I wouldn't do that. I would still keep my city apartment, that kind of thing.
Yeah, that's actually really interesting, isn't it? Because people are doing that. They're moving to the countryside.
I would still keep your city apartment.
Good food for thought. Thank you. Thank you very much. So, Pavitra, what are you thinking about for 2022, and what 3 tips would you like to share to inspire lawyers as they plan their career and personal development activities for 2022?
So for 2022, so very excited because I do believe that this is going to be a much better year for the world than 2021 was, especially pandemic-wise. We've seen the difference between 2020 and 21, and I really hope that 2022 is even better than 2021. So it's on a note of positivity. I think that I sort of welcome 2022. And for, the lawyers out there, the young lawyers especially, but for me personally, I think if there's something that I want to focus on in 2022, given, how overwhelming the pandemic has been and how little we feel that we're able to sort of control in our lives, for me, this year is going to be all about incremental improvements. It's about finding those small little things that I can work on, sort of chip away on, or sort of, stack up little by little, whatever it is. I think just pick one area and, try to improve it incrementally. That's one thing. I think the second thing, especially for our profession, is, we've seen the whole world change because of the pandemic. So what it's taught me is that I think not only should we expect changes, if you take an average career to be of 40 years to say 50 years, I think we can realistically expect that there's going to be at least one more, huge sort of a black swan event or whatever you want to call it in the span of your working life. And so, of course, expect change, but also prepare for it. Now, what does that mean? Could it mean upskilling? Could it mean becoming more specialist in an area? Or is it learning a new skill entirely? So that is something that I think each one of us at least needs to think about and, sort of tackle in our own ways and in the ways that work best for us. And the third thing that I would like to do this year is definitely start networking more effectively. And especially with the pandemic, I'm now seeing personally the power of social media and something like LinkedIn to connect with people. And so networking is definitely going to be something that I will focus on this year. But at the same time, I also am very conscious that I still want to cultivate meaningful relationships that go beyond just networking and, sort of have a strong network, but also very strong connections with the people in my network.
Fabulous. Celeste, what are you thinking about for 2022?
What I'm thinking about for 2022, I probably haven't had the luxury of thinking too much about 2022 yet, because I think our lives here are so affected by what's going on with the virus. But I am hoping that we'll be able to see each other more face-to-face and connect in person. The 3 tips I'll share to inspire lawyers is, firstly, be open to change. I think the ability to manage change is the biggest asset in today's leader. Secondly, let go of perceptions about what you should do, either from others or because you originally chose a certain pathway for yourself. So be flexible and don't lock yourself into a box. And finally, speak up. So be transparent, be honest, and have your voice heard, particularly if it could help you or others. Speak up in the workplace or otherwise, because we all need that.
So, Nick, what are you thinking about for 2022?
All right, let's see how I go here. Number 1, not surprising, identify what energizes you. The last 18 months, I think, have given everybody the opportunity to reevaluate that. Then number 2, connect with your North Star, your guiding compass, and do that in terms of your life more broadly, not just narrowly around your work. With that, I think then you can go into number 3, which is identify the 3 most important things for you to be able to head towards your North Star, and really commit to being intentional in designing not only your work, but your life around those things. I think that if you can, focus on those 3 things, you can at least find yourself heading towards that North Star and moving the needle, Catherine.
So Jessica, what are you thinking about for 2022, and what 3 tips would you like to share to inspire lawyers as they plan their career and personal development activities for 2022?
So I guess I would just say what I'm going to try to do for myself next year. And one of these things is inspired by you, Catherine. But I'd like to set a theme for my year. I really like that you do that. And I think that'll be it'll be really interesting to do that at the start of the year. And then by the end of next year, kind of see how that has played out. So yeah, intentionally setting a theme for the year will be one thing that I try. And then I guess my 2 other tips are things that I'd like to just continue practicing for myself is being curious and trusting my gut.
What are you thinking about for 2022?
Thank you, Catherine. My top 3 tips for 2022. First one, nice and simple, innovate. Legal tech and innovation are really the future for law firms and legal departments. And in my view, the legal professionals of the future have to be tech savvy. And this is going to become a core competency for lawyers. But don't just follow the trend. Get in front and help lead it in your organization. The best innovations are from grassroots. So you don't have to be in a managerial position or a leadership position to bring about positive change. And it is very important, I think, to recognize that innovation is not necessarily technology. Innovation could be mindset, culture, or the work environment. And you don't have to have a big budget or to mobilize a lot of resources to innovate. Small, quick wins can pack a punch. My second tip, float like a butterfly, sting like a bee. As you're doing your planning for the next 12 months or for a longer term, just keep an open mind to the idea that what success means to you will likely evolve over time. So make your plan and write your goals and be prepared for roadblocks, diversions, and things that might come at you from your blind spot. Be resourceful, creative, and flexible, and take chances while keeping your eyes on the prize. Having a plan is really important, but also be agile and be graceful. Pick your battles, and when you go into battle, make sure you strike with precision. Tip number 3, don't count the days, make the day count. Rather than focusing on how much longer until you get that promotion you're chasing, or how much more work you need to do to reach your goal, focus instead on making each day count as it is happening. Life can be pretty overwhelming, and one of my strategies has always been just to cut it down to size, to focus on the day that I'm in and that I can achieve in that day. So in life, all we can do is our best, one day at a time, and let the rest come as it may.
Well said, Angela. I just really love that. Don't count the days, make the days count. Well, make the day count, right? That's what she said. That is amazing. And what a way to wrap up this bonus episode. I really hope this has been encouraging for everyone as you plan out your year for 2022. You take your reflections and think about your personal goals and your professional goals. So I actually also have one other thing. We've got a mystery guest coming. So you thought the 3 tips from everyone had finished, but we do have a mystery guest. She's a mystery because you will hear her full episode when we open up in 2022 in January with our first episode, and that's going to be her. But we wanted to bring you a sneak preview of this wonderful lawyer extraordinaire. So take it away, mystery guest, lawyer extraordinaire. So, mystery guest, what are you thinking about for 2022?
If people around me, and this could be my family or people in my job, if they could end the year a little bit more inspired, a little bit happier as a result of me being there, I think I've succeeded. And my 3 tips are, and this is somewhat based on my experience and my reflections as a Japanese woman living in Japan, is number 1, forgive yourself, be forgiving to yourself. Because I feel that, especially women, we're sort of hard on ourselves and we're sort of expected to be perfect, and we're just not. And we can only be kind to others when we are kind and forgiving to yourself. And second is somewhat related to the first point, which is boldness. I feel that, the universe is always giving you opportunities and constantly giving you signs to sort of elevate you to the next level. But I think what happens, especially in Japanese society, is we sort of think about how people will perceive us, before responding to these signs. So just be bold, tune into what the universe is giving you and respond to that, actually act on these signs. And I bet you'll be in a happier place. And third is just do more of what you love. Think of what you like to do, it could just be something simple, like I like having lunches with my friends, or I like to play the piano, or I like to sing. And if you spend maybe only 2 hours of that, try to rank that up to like 3 hours. Do more of what you love. Think about what you love to do, because that is an easy sort of a shortcut way to become more happy.
So that was our mystery guest, something for you to look forward to, coming out on the 10th of January, 2022. So there we have it, Catherine, a compilation of guests for our Legal Eagle Lawyer Extraordinaires to use as their playbook for the coming year ahead. You and I have a super year planned, and we can't wait to bring more voices of wonderful women lawyers to the airwaves with the Lawyer on Air podcast. Look out for season 3 as well, with some interesting twists on our current themes.
That's right. It's been such a fun episode to put this together. And I'd love to also thank once again all of the Lawyer Extraordinaire ladies in season 2. Thank you so much for unlocking your wisdom and telling the inspiring stories that women never tell. And to our listeners, please like this episode and subscribe to Lawyer on Air. Also, do drop us a short review, as that really does help Lawyer on Air be seen and heard by more people. You can also pop over to my webpage, find this episode, and leave me a voicemail. I really and truly do love your actual voice telling me about the guests and all of what you've heard today and what you enjoyed. That really makes it super special for us. And now we're out on YouTube as well, so you can catch us there. And I'm also opening up a Lawyer Extraordinaire Mastermind in 2022 for women lawyers. So check out my posts about this on LinkedIn if you're interested in hearing more. And do go ahead then and share this episode with someone who you think will enjoy listening to it, who will lead an inspired life as a wonderful lawyer extraordinaire. So that's all for now from Jane and me. See you on the next episode in 2022.
Cheers.
Kampai.
And bye for now.
Bye for now.
So, Catherine, who do we have next?
Well, having just heard you and me give our tips, we're now going into the fabulous Lawyer Extraordinaire guests that we had on season 2. And we kick off with Mitsuru Claire Chino. That was a bit weird because it finishes too soon, right?
Yeah. So, Catherine, who do we have next?
So we've teed up a number of guests all in a row giving their 3 tips. So this is going to be phenomenal.
We have to put this at the end in the outtakes.
Phenomenal. So we're going to start with Mitsuru Claire Chino to take it away, and the other guests will follow. Please enjoy.
Alrighty, yeah. And then, yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
is that weird? That feels a bit, but it's all right. Thank you so much for listening today to this episode of Lawyer on Air. I really hope that you were inspired by the story you heard and that you discovered something new about women in the law. It's my passion to share my stories of amazing legal ladies, So please subscribe to the show so that you don't miss future episodes. And if you can think of even just one person to share this episode with, that would make my day. I would love to connect with you, so jump on over to LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter or Insta, where you can find me. The links are in the show notes below. Well, that's all from me today, and I look forward to seeing you right here on the next episode of Lawyer on Air. Cheers, kampai, and bye for now.